As Kayla mentioned, my name is Connie Reimers-Hild. I am the Associate Executive Director and Chief Futurist at the Rural Futures Institute. What Kayla asked me to do today is to really kind of set the stage for some futuristic thinking around your conversations throughout the day and after the event. We're really excited at the Rural Futures Institute to host CYN and have that as part of the Rural Futures family. We know that you are leading great things in the state of Nebraska and beyond in this room. We're excited to be a part of that. I want to introduce this conversation with a short video. So I'm going to turn it over to the Rural Futures team and have them play it. Great, thank you. Have any of you heard of Microsoft's HoloLens, or have any of you experimented with anything like that? If you have, raise your hand for me.
I work with the University of Nebraska Foundation, and at UNMC, a current project in the works is called iExcel. It's virtual reality 3D learning. So teams, doctors, nurses can go in and practice essentially a surgery or dissect a heart in 3D virtual reality before they ever actually go in and do these things on patients. And so it's still in the works, but a lot of virtual reality glasses like this and other technology is coming into play. And so in our role, we got to go and play around with it and sample it, and it's really interesting, really interactive, and breakthrough for the university. So,
absolutely, thank you for sharing that. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you. You know, a lot of us have heard of holograms, virtual reality, sort of Star Trek-y type things for a long time, and it's taken a while for us to really get to the point now where we're launching applications with this. We're actually doing it. This isn't even in the future anymore. This is happening now. And so as we think about the future of rural, urban, our lives, we need to think about how can we incorporate this technology into what we're doing. And so what I'd love to see with all these partnerships that Microsoft is putting together, how do we at the university have a stronger presence in this? How do we as the state of Nebraska have a stronger presence in this? Because this is transforming our lives. You're going to be able to go into Lowe's, for example, and rearrange your kitchen using holograms. You no longer have to take the paint swatch. You know, anyone get the paint swatch and take that home and try to figure out from a little square what color your room should be? How many of you have had that turn out really well? Okay, I hear some laughing. Yeah, I mean, so we've all had that happen, right? You bring the paint swatch home and you're like, oh, I painted the room and now I've got to change it up. I'd much rather be in the middle of a hologram to see what I can change and do before I actually make the purchase. I'd love for doctors and other medical professionals to be able to experiment with a hologram before they have surgery. You know, take that time to take surgery on me. So these are exciting times that we're living in, and our communities really need to think about how they can transform as well. And that's what we're working on at the Rural Futures Institute. Many of my colleagues will tell you I love to explain the Rural Futures Institute as the Google of rural. So how do we add to this innovation? How do we add to this discovery and support that so we can add to the university system and our knowledge, but at the same time add value to communities in Nebraska, nationally, and internationally? Over 10 years ago, futuring or foresight was already identified as a critical leadership competency. So we've known for a long time that leaders need to start thinking about what does the future look like and how can I help shape that? How can I make a difference? One of the tools we use at the Real Futures Institute to explore this for communities is looking at megatrends. And megatrends are global shifts that influence society, the economy, and the environment. I want to briefly share 3 of those with you today. The first is the rise of the gig economy. The second is living with purpose and meaning. And the third is the decentralized global marketplace. So let's take a look at the rise of the gig economy. How many of you in this room are entrepreneurs or own a business? Great, awesome. How many of you have some sort of side hustle going on? Hey, I think everybody should have a side hustle. In fact, Chuck and I just talked about that at dinner last night. I think it's one of the greatest ways to learn how to even be better in your job if you're currently in a career type position. Side hustles are awesome. And technology is helping us make this more and more possible. So think about this. 53 million Americans are participating in what we call the gig economy, some sort of freelancing. They have some sort of side hustle going on. Some people have it as a side hustle in addition to a job. Some people are using the gig economy to support their families entirely. This adds over $715 billion a year to the American economy. But we also know that it's a competitive environment, right? There's a lot of noise out there on the internet or even sometimes in our own communities. Sometimes it's hard to get found. So if you're going to be successful in the gig economy, you have to build your brand, your influence, and your audience. And that's why networks like this are so critically important, right? If you're networked, if you know people, it's going to be easier for you to make a difference. If you look at the online space and the most successful online entrepreneurs, guess what? They have strong networks. They promote one another. They promote each other. They're not doing it alone. Our communities can benefit from the gig economy in great ways, and I think this is something we need to continue to explore as a state because we have to make sure they're connected, right? We need that connectivity if we're going to be powerful in the gig economy, but we also need to learn to collaborate. So what can organizations like CYN do around collaboration so we can compete in this global economy? Because things are changing, and they're changing very quickly. We're in an era of rapid change, and it's getting faster and faster all the time. So as leaders, we need to really think about what that means and how we deal with it. So if you look at this map, you know, if we look at the 10 countries with the world's fastest internet speeds, of course you can see the US is a huge part of that. But this map continues to evolve. So more and more countries are coming online and getting more powerful all the time and more connected. Okay, if you have one of these, let's see it. Yeah, right? So like everybody has connectivity in their hand, right? Even 10 years ago, this wasn't the case. 20 years ago, wasn't the case. I mean, I'm going to show my age a little bit here. So I did age out of CYN a few years ago. I'll just let you in. I mean, oil valet does work for me. I know, I get that. But at the same time, you know, I've kind of aged out. But, you know, there was a time, and I have to actually share this with my kids. There was a time that this was just a phone. There was a time that it was only on your wall. And that when I was in high school, to get any sort of privacy, our cord ended up being about the length of the stage because I had to take the receiver, I had to go down the stairs to my room and stretch that cord out, right? This is the only way for me to have a private conversation in a house where I was the second oldest of 6 kids. Right? So that's how you had your privacy. My kids still love going to my dad's house because he still has a phone on his wall, and they're just amazed at the fact that it's on the wall and they can actually touch buttons. And the only thing it was designed to do was to be a telephone. It didn't have apps, didn't have games, it didn't have these things. It wasn't that long ago, and it's amazing to see now how even with Google's new phone, you can get a virtual reality headset. So that's where we are today. These things are happening now. How can we as leaders in our communities make a difference in our communities with these technologies and connect with the world? Living with purpose and meaning. Purpose, a big theme of the CYN Summit today, right? But we also know, largely because of this, things don't just shut off anymore, right? I mean, we have to try to figure a way to balance this all out. So today I'll be in New York. In the morning this afternoon, I'm going to be at Conestoga Elementary. I've got some spider bling on today because I'll be helping with an elementary Halloween party, right? So this is how it goes. You're Zooming, you're going, but I can still be on, I can still text, I can still answer emails, and so after that party, I can get back on and see what happened at the summit. But that means we have to create some sort of balance for ourselves, some sort of rules that we just haven't had to do yet. And so we're in a new era with some of this. And that really is one of the reasons why this quest for greater vitality and meaning has become so important, because we realize sometimes we need to shut it off. Sometimes we need to take a moment, right? And even companies like Google are really starting to invest heavily in this. They've recently launched Calico, or their California Life company. You know, if you're a tech billionaire, do you think you want to die young? Probably not. But not only that, they want to live long and they want to live well. You know, they want to be healthy and vibrant even as they get into their golden years. Have you heard of the Blue Zones Project or familiar with Blue Zones? Raise your hand if you are, if you've heard of Blue Zones. So Blue Zones Project really looks at how do people live well to age 100 and even higher, right? What are these hot spots or blue zones doing differently than the rest of the world? One of the blue zones is Okinawa, Japan. In Okinawa, they've determined their ikigai is actually an essential part to their health and well-being over age 100. And their ikigai is their purpose. And what they do is challenge people to ask, why do you wake up in the morning? And that's how they help people find their purpose. And we actually see this being a big issue in America as well. But we also know from research now that if you're clear about your purpose and you live in your purpose, it can actually extend your life by over 7 years. So it's not just about exercise, it's just not about eating well. It's also being clear about your purpose and who you are, because it goes to the core of your being and helps with well-being and longevity. In the United States, we have some work to do on our ikigai. Several years ago, we found that only 21% of adults strongly agreed that their life had a clear sense of purpose. I also want you to know who did this study, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, which I really find fascinating now that we're starting to really take a look at things other than just the food plate, right? There's more to longevity, there's more to vitality than what we eat and what we do. Our habits are important, our purpose is important. So when you have places like the Center for Disease Control looking at this, it's a good thing for us to consider as community leaders. International organizations are actually looking at well-being and vitality as well. So you have organizations like the OECD looking at what is it like to live in your community? What's it like to live in your state compared to places around the world? Because they know if you have a high quality of living where you are, you're more engaged in your community. You're more vibrant, you contribute more, you want to be there. And you can contribute more because you're healthier. So where you live has an impact on your quality of life, and in return, you contribute to making your community a better place. So place is important, and that quality of life where you live is important. It matters. Finally, I want to talk about the decentralized global marketplace. Businesses and communities are now in the age of the empowered consumer, right? I've gone to conferences before where I woke up in the morning and I ordered a pair of shoes before I got to the stage, right? Busy working mom, these things have to happen. I couldn't do that even a few years ago. We're an add-to-cart society, bought my kitchen table online, delivered right to my door. It was awesome. I did not have to go anywhere and actually shop. Loved it, worked well for me. I know not everybody likes that, but I'm not much of a shopper, so that was awesome. But this is really, really challenging in transforming companies and communities. How do we support our local initiatives, endeavors, and businesses, but at the same time, be connected and competitive? How many of you do Stitch Fix, or have heard of Stitch Fix? Yeah, okay. So a few years ago, I listened to a podcast with the CEO of Stitch Fix, Katrina Lake, and it was really interesting to hear how their company, how she got the idea, and how it's evolved. And if you haven't heard of Stitch Fix, I'd encourage you to check it out. So basically, it's a company that personalizes your wardrobe. You go online, you fill out a personalized survey, you actually get a stylist that will help you with your wardrobe. Now, I'm not much of a fashionista, so I can use some help. Actually, our team will joke that mostly in my wardrobe I have all black, and gray is a colorful day for me. Okay? So I get up, I put on black, I'm good to go. I just get out of the house. But what Stitch Fix has found is that they're able to compete in this marketplace because they can learn about their customers. They can use big data to learn more, not just about you as an individual, but as women and men in general. What really needs to happen with the world of fashion by the information they're collecting. And they can customize and personalize your wardrobe based on your feedback. And she noted that when you walked into places like Macy's, other big name stores that have traditionally held the market share in consumer goods and women's clothing and fashion specifically, they don't know anything about you. You walk in, they aren't going to be able to say, I know Connie's favorite color is blue, I know she always wears black pants. No, they're not going to know any of that. But Stitch Fix does, and every month they get better and better and better. At least that's their goal. So it's interesting how they've been able to transform and disrupt women's clothing specifically and moving into men's. Transportation, big deal around some of this, right? Okay, so when I was little growing up in West Point, Nebraska, if we ordered something out of the JCPenney catalog, it took about 3 months. I'm not joking, I mean that's serious, to get that in. And luckily we lived in town, so you can walk down to JCPenney and check to see if your order was in yet. I mean, this is what you did, right? This did exist. Now I can order something and within a day it's there, 2 days. If it's not there in 3, I'm frustrated, right? I mean, we're expecting this to be faster and faster, and we just saw our drone today. You know, pretty soon we may have those deliveries. I don't know. It's moving quickly. But we're able to personalize things, we're able to transport things quickly, and we're able to help people realize themselves, self-actualization, personalization. People can be who they want to be, where they want to be, and when they want to be. That's what technology is giving us today. Individuals are creating local, national, and global communities of meaning and change that are self-selected and self-formed. And that's exactly what CYN is, right? You choose to be here. You choose to be part of this network. Nobody's making you do it. You don't have to feel forced. It's something you want to do because it holds meaning to you. Our communities have to learn from this too. If we want people to be involved, it may not be in that physical community. It may be a cause instead, something that people are passionate about and that they hold dear. We need to be aware of that. I wanted to give an example as I close today about 2 women who have really helped transform my life. Now you can see I put them on the connectivity map. Victoria Enliski lives in Seward, Nebraska. Jonathan, I know you're here. Yeah? New York Times best-selling author, indie author in Seward, Nebraska. Now this is a huge deal. This does not happen easily. Just to get on the New York Times list is really difficult, but to do it as an indie author, even more difficult, and she did this several years ago and continues to be a best-selling author. Joanna Penn, a podcast I listen to almost every day on my commute to work. So these 2 women are both authors. They both live in the gig economy. Joanna's more of a nomad. She doesn't have any children. She likes to be able to move around, but she has this huge following of authors. Very niched space, right? These 2 women know each other. They talk about each other's work. These 2 women have inspired me to be an author, to bring out that talent myself, and just to even experiment a little bit. I first met Victorine through a colleague of mine, Dennis Call, who is an extension educator in Seward County. I then met her, I wanted to meet her live and in person because Dennis had told me the story about her being a New York Times best-selling author. Well, Chapters, Books, and Gifts in Seward, Nebraska, excellent store. Anybody from there happen to be here? I love Seward, I love Chapters, it's so awesome. And you know, they'd have these author panels. Well, I got to serve on an author panel with Victorine, so it was like meeting my hero, which was very exciting. But this woman had 4 children, had a back injury, was bored, and just decided to write. She wasn't born an author. It's not something she always aspired to do, but she knew she could do it, and she just wanted to try it. Worked with a community of authors who helped make her work better over a period of 4 years. She dedicated herself 4 years to publishing that book. Launched it, became a New York Times best-selling author. She and Joanna now exchange what? Information on how to continue to grow as authors and to continue to grow a business around authorship. And they've inspired me. I wrote a book. Did I expect it to become a best-selling book? No, but I did it. Why? Because I could, because it's possible. Wrote a second book with my colleagues at the Kimmel Education and Research Center as part of Nebraska Extension. And guess what? Just found out this week that the Kimmel Foundation would like to invest more into the Happy Orchard concept because they know it can provide an experience. We have an app, we have an activity guide and book, and we'll soon have another children's book around this education, but it's because it's networked. We want to build in some virtual reality into this concept and move it to the next level. Not only that, Seward continues to be connected and continues to help people in ways they don't even know. And this is how the world works because we're also networked. Dave Pilkey, anyone go to this from Seward here lately? Partners with the college in Seward. And do we have some college kids here from Seward today? Anyone from Concordia? Okay. But they're defying the odds of what people would think a rural community could do. As we live in a time of a lot of bookstores closing, at one time it was cool to go there and drink coffee and hang out. We see a lot of them closing because more and more people are buying online. But Seward, Nebraska is bringing global leaders in the author space to Seward to do book signings, to help other authors. They built a community around this. Makes no sense, but that's what they decided to do, and they're doing it amazingly well. And here's what I want to close with as you get into those coffee shop discussions. We already know you're leading. We already know that you're doing great things in communities, and we appreciate and value that work. You are the future of leadership. The people sitting in this room today will experience change we will not see in another lifetime, right? It's happening so quickly. You can change the way you see the world, so as you get into those discussions, I would challenge you to think differently. I'd challenge you to think big and bold, much like Chapters continues to do in Seward. We need you to change the world you see. We need you to change what we do in Nebraska and help us evolve and innovate into something even bigger than we are now. We're a great state, absolutely. But our future is bright, and we need you to help us get there. Be the change that you want to experience. And with that, I'll bring Kayla back up, and we will get into our coffee shop discussions. Thank you.